The Florida Panthers continue their winning ways against the Eastern Conference. We discuss how the Florida Panthers shut down the Carolina Hurricanes. We're going to discuss our 3 stars, unsung heroes, and a little bit of injury update heading into Sunday's game against the Chicago Blackhawks.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Saturday, November 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics with 50 plus that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. So the Florida Panthers, they come into tonight's game against the Carolina Hurricanes, an Eastern Conference final matchup where the Carolina Hurricanes got off to a 1-0 start for this game, even though the Florida Panthers started off this game well with a lot of forechecking, getting it into the Carolina Hurricanes end. The Carolina Hurricanes score on 3 opportunities. The Florida Panthers score 2 straight. And even though the second period was mostly dominated by the Carolina Hurricanes in the first 6 minutes, the Panthers separate themselves in the third period and never look back after that and shut down the Carolina Hurricanes in the third period, where their PK went a perfect 3 for 3. Not only that, but not giving up a single shot on goal on the night when they were down a man. And on today's show, to discuss this 5-2 win for the Florida Panthers over the Carolina Hurricanes, their first matchup since the Eastern Conference Final, is a guy who y'all are very familiar with. He is Florida Panthers historian Francisco Oporta. Francisco, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Yeah, what's up, Armando? It's been great. It's a good win. It's a very, very good win, and very telling of the makeup of this team moving forward, and how exciting it's going to be once they do get some healthy bodies back from Bennett, from Montour, from Ekblad, just to add to those guys to this group right now. It's looking great. It's looking great so far.
Yeah, and you think about whenever the Panthers are, even though the Panthers did have 2-goal leads multiple times in this one, you saw how the Panthers continue. You saw a little bit of signs of what they did last year against the Carolina Hurricanes about keeping these games tight, the tight checking, not overcommitting and all when it comes to a hit on one side as well for the Panthers. But then when you think about, once again, like I said at the very top, the first period for the Panthers, I mean, the shots on goal were at 1.44 for the Panthers, but then you think about the 3 shots that they had on the first goal by just Barry Kotkaniemi, the Panthers were forechecking them into their own zone. I mean, yeah, later on in the period, the Carolina Hurricanes were getting a lot of the shot attempts, but the Panthers, they were getting bodies in front, protecting Sergei Bobrovsky, forcing to the outside and all. And you see that the Florida Panthers, I mean, when it comes to that, they won the battle. They won a battle. Anton Lundell gets it to Verhaeghe, where he gets it to Matthew Tkachuk and all. And then it carries over later into the period when the Panthers, you think about how quick they are getting into the zone. I mean, this wasn't even the fastest pace of game as far as that and all. And you see that the Florida Panthers, they are quick to redirect pucks as well. You saw it on the Verhaeghe goal that was originally waved off and then reviewed as well. That was off a face-off win where Verhaeghe was the first to the near side wall as well. But also what was really telling about this Florida Panthers team was how they responded after The second period was mostly dominated by the Carolina Hurricanes and all, and a lot of the time it was the Panthers in their own end. But then you think about how puck retrieval is once again a thing for this Panthers team, that they are just quicker to pucks in their opposition a lot of the time. Sam Reinhart is quick to the puck, gets it to Evan Rodriguez a shot, and then Barkov is there. He gets the GWG on the night. What did you think about the Panthers and their ability to get quality goals in this one, not necessarily quantity in the first two periods specifically?
So towards the end of the game, I started writing down some of my overall thoughts as to how the game was flowing. And one of the things that stuck out to me was around the 8-minute mark into the third period, I was just thinking they've got stifling defense and great puck possession. Like if they do give up the puck, they're usually going back to get it at some point, very, very quickly. So they're not letting, once again, the stifling defense, they were not letting Carolina get much of an opportunity in that third period to try and make something happen in trying to make that game a tied game. So that was what stuck out to me the most to finish off that game. And it's very telling that the Panthers have complete comfortability with these very close games. 3-2, 1-goal games. It seems like this is what we're seeing is version 2.0 of the Paul Maurice system in action right now. And these guys have fully bought it, and Zito has been able to complement the guys that are not healthy right now, Bennett, Montour, and Ekblad, but complementing them with OEL, bringing back Kulikov, Lockwood. Had a great game today. There's just a bunch of unsung heroes as well that you can think about that played in this game that kept everything going. That if you check out like hockey stat cards, their Twitter account, they always post reports of the game, and you can see how many of those guys were contributing throughout the game on defense, on offense, and just the miscellaneous things. And so it's very one of the things that I also wrote down was the Panthers' possession drives not just their offense, but their defense.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing about that third period was they were not resting on their laurels whatsoever. They could have just tried to sit on that lead. And it's like, okay, let's try and find a way to just eke out this clock. But they kept pushing and pushing, trying to get that insurance goal. Eventually they did get it, but it just was unrelenting. And it was some of the stuff that drove them through that second period. And we'll get to a question about that later on in the show. But those were some of my thoughts towards the end of this game. That was like, this is what stuck out to me from this Hurricanes versus Panthers game.
Yeah, and even though the Carolina Hurricanes got more shot attempts on the night, the Panthers were still taking the puck away, closing in gaps. I mean, I thought Dmitry Kulikov was great in this one. Kevin Stenlund was great as well. And also before the goal by Aleksander Barkov, what the fourth line did as far as battling behind the net as well, creating the energy necessary before that. That's what, honestly, in my opinion, kickstarted the Panthers into momentum shifting on their side as well. And I think that's just a real big help when you know the peaks and valleys of a game as well for this Florida Panthers team. And we know, like I said, quality over quantity as well. PK goes perfect. My goodness, the amount of times we saw pass shot block by the Carolina Hurricanes. Maybe that's a little bit of personnel with what the Carolina Hurricanes have, with which a common complaint about them is outside of the two superstars who can score, where is the depth scoring for the Carolina Hurricanes? But hey, the Panthers aren't complaining as far as that. And even when the Carolina Hurricanes got it to 3-2, I mean, the Panthers haven't really all season, for the most part, have not really allowed many rebound shots on goal against. I mean, going into today, they're fourth least in the NHL in rebound shots on goal against per game. And two of those happened to be
today.
two of those happened to be on that one.
Mhm.
One of them, Bob stops a redirection, and then Sebastian Aho scores, and then the first one, Kakaniemi, three shots on a set play. So even then, the Panthers didn't allow themselves to really let themselves get down emotionally as well. Even the few times that the Carolina Hurricanes did get on the doorstep.
This was a fantastic matchup for a Friday night game in the NHL. This is like a premier game. And I mean, both these teams went into the game fairly even as far as certain aspects, right? The shot attempts percentage, the core side percentage. The Florida comes in at third. Carolina was first in the NHL. I mean, expected goals percentage, Panthers are fifth. Hurricanes are sixth. Goals against percentage, expected goals against percentage. Florida's second. Carolina's ninth. They're two top teams facing off against each other. And the night went about as good as anyone would think, from like a neutral standpoint. Like, you want to watch some very, very good hockey being played. Tonight was the night. This was the game. This was the
Mm-hmm.
game tonight, I would think, so far. And it never seemed like at any point that the Panthers were losing control of this game.
Mm-mm.
I think they harken back to some of those moments that they did have back in the 2023 Eastern Conference Final. It's at no point did it feel like that it was out of control. Even when Carolina got it to a 3-2, it's like, okay, here we go. And even like Matthew Tkachuk gave like the post second period interview, and it there was no sense of worry in his voice or in his answers. So it goes to show you just at what level this team is mentally to try and get through this early grind for the season. I mean, they faced three of their Eastern Conference opponents already, and
Mm-hmm.
they're 2-1,
2-0. Yeah,
right?
2-0
And
one
it
of them.
could have been 3-0, just a few more minutes into that overtime against Boston, but it's 2-1, and given the worries people had going into the season, oh, how's OEL gonna do on this team? How long can they survive without Bennett and Montour and Ekblad? And lo and behold, they're holding up just fine, just fine.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. And the Panthers are 6-0-1 versus the Eastern Conference. We wish that that was the first tiebreaker when it comes to the NHL, but it doesn't work that way. It's not like the other sports leagues in North America as well. So, but hey, the Panthers are getting their wins against what's considered the stronger conference of the two. Just speaks continuously to the culture that the Florida Panthers are continuing to create here. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2. We're going to discuss our 3 stars of the game and when we thought this game was won or lost. We are going to discuss this and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Parkview Advance. And as a business owner, you realize that there are times when receivables might fall behind, but that doesn't mean you need to fall behind on your vendor payments, payroll, or rent. For more than 25 years, Parkview Advance has helped businesses secure working capital from $5,000 to $1.5 million. Parkview Advance can approve your working capital in as little as 24 hours. It's a much easier process than you might imagine. We invite the many entrepreneurs that are Locked On NHL fans to learn more about calling us at 203-675-0071 or go to parkviewadvance.com. If your business needs working capital, call Parkview Advance today. Parkview Advance, helping businesses with their working capital. Go to parkviewadvance.com. And we would also like to tell you about Collective. And if you run a solo small business, you're an army of one, but you still need a CPA, bookkeeper, separate payroll solution, and more. Let Collective take care of the paperwork while you take care of business. If you're running a business of one, you're wearing many hats in your day to day. With Collective, bookkeeping and accounting don't need to be one of them. You can start saving thousands of dollars and hours of your time by letting Collective handle your business. They say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But as a freelancer, there's always the dreaded paperwork that comes with it. With Collective, you can focus on your business of one while letting them focus on your paperwork. Join over the thousands of entrepreneurs who have saved an average of 10K per year on taxes with their structure. Right now, Collective is offering 1 month free of no onboarding fee when you go to collective.com/lockedon and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's a $550 value for free when you go to collective.com/lockedonnhl and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's collective.com/lockedonnhl and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. Segment number 2 here on this Saturday, November 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Saturday. Yes, a Saturday edition of the show here with Francisco Oporta, Florida Panthers historian here. And man, by the way, congratulations to Uvis Balinskis, first ever NHL goal. And just from what we saw on TV, at least hearing from the arena, the call from Andrew Imber from the PA system announcing his first goal, and then him tweeting after how special it was for him to call that, but only special for Uvis Balinskis. He spoke after the game how his phone is actually blowing up, and crazy to think his story from someone from Latvia, played in the Czech league, Extraliga last year, and then didn't think he was going to ever be in the NHL. And look what happens. He's with the Florida Panthers here. So congratulations to Uvis. So Francisco, I'm going to let you take the floor on this one first. Your 3 stars of the game for the Florida Panthers in this 5-2 victory over the Carolina Hurricanes.
Okay, so when it comes to like the 3 stars, so the actual 3 stars from this game were Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, and Barkov.
Mine are different.
Tkachuk is one of them for
Yes.
sure. This man comes to play. He is the nightmare, the terror of Raleigh right now. Nobody in the Carolinas likes Matthew Tkachuk, and he scored a goal today. And he, if anybody's watched Shores, you just know you've got to set the tone, and Tkachuk finds a way to set the tone against the Carolina Hurricanes for sure. Another, I guess, man, I don't think he's unsung anymore. I mean, he's at this point, but sometimes people don't value defense because it's just not as flashy as offense at times. But man, Gustav Forsling, I mean, that guy comes to play. There was a wraparound attempt from Carolina somewhere in that, I think, the second period, and Forsling was there, even though I think Bob was just there at the time, even if he got that shot off. But Forsling was there to get his skate there, just try and be position wise be in a fantastic spot there. But just the things that he does, he was the guy that threw that shot on nets that eventually became Verhaeghe's goal there, that the tip in that got reviewed, and the Panthers were able to overturn that waved off goal. And yeah, Gustav Forsling's my one of my 3 stars. And then, I guess finally, I'll give it to Uvis Balinskis. I think just his story is fantastic. I was kind of expecting him to get like a 3rd star in this game, and I was like, okay. And eventually it went to Verhaeghe, and I get it, but I still think that would have been cool. He got the scoring started there. He jumped up on that play too, which goes to show how fantastic it was. I mean, but Tkachuk with that sauce pass to him, absolutely. That was delicioso right there, man. That was fantastic. And but I would have given it to Balinskis, man. Just give that man his star. He got his first goal. The writers up there, what are you guys doing? Come on. I've been up there. I know some of y'all. Come on now.
Mine are Matthew Tkachuk. First one for how he set the tone, like you said, 2 shots on goal in this one. He came into this game with the highest expected goals for percentage on the team, and so many people online, from what I've seen, were just worried about Matthew Tkachuk's production. Even Paul Maurice today was talking about how much Matthew Tkachuk's defensive presence has been such a help with this team, which is what the Florida Panthers foundation has been through the first 12 games, even continuing into tonight. And even before the season at Media Day, Matthew Tkachuk said about, if my defensive game is up and my points are going down, then I'm contributing better to the team, and which is such a great mindset for Matthew Tkachuk to have, and definitely is a big contributor to that. Aleksander Barkov with the GWG on the night. That is my second star for the night. What a goal! A goal and an assist, 5 shots on goal for the night as well. That top line continues to be buzzing. That line of Barkov, Reinhart, and Rodriguez is, as far as a goal differential, Jameson all have tweeted this, 12-1 as far as goal differential. That is just amazing. Even Paul Maurice spoke about the line juggles when Sam Bennett does come back, which we'll get into Sam Bennett. You know what you're going to get out of Verhage if you were going to go on that top line. And you know how Lundell and Reinhart can mix, but he never has seen Lundy, Rodriguez, and all to get to and Tkachuk together. But he spoke about how he doesn't want to separate that line. And even though plus minus is the be all end all, it's something that coaches have spoken about through the media. So it matters to them, with Evan Rodriguez being a +10, which leads the team as well. So very valuable as far as that. I want to give the listeners also some perspective on what the coach mindset is. And the third one, Uvis Balinskis. You have to give it to the guy who got his first. It's a celebration. Matthew Tkachuk with that beautiful setup, as well as they entered through the zone as well. And what an incredible drop by Etu to let the play develop and for people to freeze. And Panther Puri also mentioned this as far as in relation to Mikola's goal about Matthew Tkachuk being patient in the offensive zone and then getting a cross ice feed to a defenseman who's jumping up in the play as well. So big credit to Matthew Tkachuk on just finding his teammates and knowing where people are going to be. And some unsung heroes like we spoke about, Dmitry Kulikov, very physical, closing in gaps as well.
Fantastic hit by Kulikov.
And Kevin Stenlin as well. He was bodying up. Yeah, he got the empty net goal, but there was one specific play where Seth Jarvis gives it away to Kevin Stenlin on a clear, and then the guys on the ice for there made something out of nothing where Verhage got a shot on goal. And also there's also with how strong he was when he was on the ice for a few minutes with the Panthers getting a partial change early on in that second. Kevin Stenlund was still very active on the ice as well. As far as when this game was won, for me, it was shortly after the Panthers went up 3-1. The second power play for the Carolina Hurricanes.
Twinsies.
Oh, really? That's yours.
Yes.
When they did not, twinsies. The second time that they did not give a shot on goal, I'm like, the Panthers PK, they're on it. They're on it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
They are not giving them anything. Shooting lanes are closed. The first one specifically, they had trouble with zone entries as well. So that the first one was because of zone entries. The second time there were a good amount of time in the zone as well. So I thought that the Panthers, after that second PK, that kill, that was when they won. And then the third one, PK, the Carolina Hurricanes end that early as far as a tripping call from Aho on Kulikov as well. So Panthers PK goes perfect. And 5 out of the last 7 games, the Panthers do not give a power play goal to their opposition. So by the time tomorrow comes and NHL.com, you check stats, I think they're going to be above number 26 in PK percentage. I have a good feeling about that.
Yeah, no, it's the defensive work today was fantastic. I made note of it. I think Bill Lindsay had tweeted about it as well, and it was just like, man, just the stick work, just breaking up plays, just kind of doing these ticky-tack plays that broke up any semblance of flow for Carolina's offense. So they could never get comfortable. There were very, very few chances that Carolina was able to get some set plays to try and have some sort of actual offensive zone presence, and really they got their goals off of rebounds. they just had to throw the puck at the net and see what would happen, and they got some lucky with on the Aho one. I thought was kind of, man, that was very fortunate. Just landed right there in front of them. So, but the Carolina very rarely had chances where they were in the offense and the Panthers were just on their heels completely. I think they were always in complete control. And after that second power play, after killing that without allowing a single shot, it just felt like, oh, this is the type of game, because the first period felt like they were the both offenses felt like they were kind of flying, kind of flowing. But once the second period hit, it just felt like, oh, they're in the trenches now. This is going to be a grind. This is going to feel just like all of those games in the Eastern Conference Finals. Rob Brindamore can say whether they would have won games or not at that point, but they still lost this one. And it felt like the Panthers were just not going to let the Hurricanes one up them whatsoever. I always tweet out money pucks deserve to win-o-meter. And right
over
now,
70%.
yeah. I mean, the Panthers played that way. It's currently at 69%. Very nice. So I'll say it was 69% just to have it there, right?
Yeah.
So
Fair.
yeah, but you could tell that the Panthers were in their element.
Mm-hmm. That is the perfect description to how this game went as well. So credit to you on that statement as far as that, and just playing their game, what they know best as well for that. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss more about the injury updates to 3 key players who are out, and discuss more about Sunday's game against the Chicago Blackhawks. We're going to discuss that more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. We spend a lot of time talking together, you and I. We get fired up on wins and losses, who starts and who sits. I'm thankful for that connection we have. And today I want our chat to be a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply of ED medications. You realize what that means? Bring on extended travel, bring on the next natural disaster or supply chain issue. You are covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generic for Cialis, Viagra, Revadio prescription. And this is possible because of our friends at Jace Medical. Go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medications. Remember to use promo code Locked On at checkout for a discount as well. If you or someone you love would get some peace of mind by having a year supply of any daily med, go to jacemedical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use promo code Locked On to get $20 off your purchase at Jace Medical. That's jacemedical.com, JASE medical.com. Third and final segment here on this Saturday, November 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Saturday with Francisco Oporta, Florida Panthers historian, and Marlins historian as well. And a little bit of updates for some of the key guys who are out of the lineup. Something that Paul Maurice spoke about this morning is that there is a chance that Sam Bennett will be back with the team in a game setting as early as Sunday against the Chicago Blackhawks. But Paul Maurice has basically said it really comes down to the player and conversations with the medical staff, giving them some time to skate and then going from there. So we could see Bennett back. We could not see Bennett back. Brandon Montour and Aaron Ekblad, the latest on theirs. Their status is that they will be on the trip with the Florida Panthers to California when they go on their 3-game trip starting on Tuesday in San Jose, and then a back-to-back on Thursday, Friday against the LA Kings and the Anaheim Ducks in that order. And Paul Maurice did say that they are not going to push them to come back on the front end of a back-to-back. So what does that mean? The now new target date for the Florida Panthers, for the guys missing for the Florida Panthers as far as defensemen, would be next Friday, a week from tonight, November 17th against the Anaheim Ducks. That's the new earliest date. Things can change. we subject to change and all. So, but that's the new target date to look at as far as that. So good news as far as the injury front, but he said only one of them might come back as well. So if my guess is correct, it's probably going to be Brandon Montour. Chances are, due to rehab, at least from we've seen of rehab videos and all that stuff, and the severity of the injuries and less injuries of Ekblad, I'm going to assume it's Brandon Montour. So that's the latest on that front. So the Florida Panthers on Sunday will be playing the Chicago Blackhawks for the second time in a 8-day span. So that's 2 games in 8 days. We all know what happened in the first one. The first one was just a really awful first period that had the Panthers fall behind. They were dominating the last 2 periods, and even when the Florida Panthers were pressing and trying to get speed through the neutral zone, one mistake and Connor Bedard goes for that breakaway where everyone and their mother knew that goal that Connor Bedard was going to score on Anthony Stolarz there and all. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be with the Dolphins being on their bye week. I'm expecting a big crowd at Emirates Bank Arena on Sunday, because when a rookie phenom that has been marketed like Connor Bedard is coming to town, I'm assuming that it's going to be fired up, even not only Blackhawks fans, but Panther fans as well, wanting to see him once a year. But Francisco, how are you viewing not only the injury updates for the Panthers, but also this recent matchup, this matchup coming up for the Florida Panthers against the Chicago Blackhawks, where Connor Bedard had a 4-point night the other night against the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2 goals and 2 assists.
Yeah, that the kid kind of broke some things in some Lightning fans. My buddy was very angry. He's a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, and he was like, "It's not fair. Why did they get Bedard and all these things?" I'm like, "Hey, now, hey, kid's good. The kid is good." Like a weekend, I'm just like, "Yep, he's the real deal. He's the real deal." And it'll be a fun weekend. I mean, Chicago, plenty of transplants down here for Chicago and everything like that. But Panthers crowds have been fantastic to start this season. Fantastic to start this season against opponents that normally wouldn't draw well. But the Panthers, that Stanley Cup Finals run really does help with the fervor around town for sure. With some winning hockey, we got winning basketball. And Heat fans, calm down, everybody, calm down, and winning football as well, right? Professional football. Yeah. But yeah, it should be a fantastic matchup. I think the Panthers will come out much better in this one than they did in the game in Chicago. As far as the injuries and the possibility, I'm glad Sam Bennett, he practiced today. It wasn't in a non-contact jersey, I think, as well.
Correct.
And yeah, I do expect Montour to be back. Against San Jose would be a great game to be back for sure. It's just that's a very nice way to ease yourself in instead of against the Los Angeles Kings, let's say, or even come back against the Anaheim Ducks, I would say as well. But yeah, it's encouraging, it's for sure. But now Paul Maurice has as all coaches say, a very good problem as to, man, which one of these players that's playing fantastically do I have to sit or send down to the A, or Bill Zito as well? I mean, it's quite the conundrum for sure, but it's a good conundrum.
Yeah, and I want to relate that to something that Paul Maurice also spoke about when it came to when Mike Riley played the last 2 games for the Panthers on Monday and Wednesday. He even spoke about how Uvis Balinskis did not do anything to take himself out of the lineup. It was a matter of trying to see what you had in Mike Riley as well, and even spoke about how, even though Mike Riley had that turnover that caused the goal for Washington the other night, how he didn't necessarily dislike his game overall on the night. And this is what the plan was this whole time when it came to this internal competition that the Florida Panthers were trying to do. Now it's the tough decisions, the good problems to have. And this is something that we even spoke about from the opening preseason game when the Florida Panthers were dominating the Nashville Predators. Those 2 wins in that doubleheader, when I said at the time, those are revealing the good problems the Panthers have, and it's continuing on from then to now, when you even have a pretty solid second pair in Nico Mikola and Dmitry Kulikov, who Dmitry Kulikov was off to a little bit of a poor start with going to the box quite a few times, but he's actually been a lot better, and that could possibly be your third pair going into the next few weeks too. Man, you definitely got to be pleased with the health that not only the Florida Panthers are getting, but what the guys above who are on the roster have been able to do as far as stepping up and knowing when they see the Florida Panthers logo, what they've done in these last few years. They know that that they gotta represent that logo well as far as what they've built. And when you have a former captain in OEL as well coming to the mix, it's you really send the message. We're gonna get guys who are gonna buy in, who are not gonna complain, who are gonna look after guys as well. And it's showing on the ice. 8-4-1 through 13 games. I haven't even refreshed the standings yet for tonight. Well, the Panthers are officially second in the Atlantic Division at a 654 points percentage, and they have a game in hand on both Detroit and Tampa Bay too.
Yeah, it's a great start to the season. I'm not really standings watching right now. Yeah, I think we're still a bit early into the season. I think once we get to that quarter mark around the 2021 game mark, we can kind of gauge where, because everybody else is going to gauge where they're at. But it's always fun. Just you can still see some of that prior trauma that Panthers fans had back in the dark days, where you hear about, why are they sending this guy down to the AHL? He's like our only guy. And people would be going crazy thinking, oh, or a guy would get injured and it's like, oh, well, it's over. All right, we're going on like a 5-game losing streak now. And now they don't have that problem. Welcome to depth, everybody. The Panthers have depth. So be very happy. I know it's scary at times. It's scary. It's like, well, why is Mackey going away? It's like, no, hold on, calm down. They'll be fine. They're sending down to the AHL. You can work on stuff, and they'll bring up this other guy, and we can see what he's got. This Lockwood guy, and let's see this Riley guy. So now the Panthers are able to mix and match and see what they've got. Like you said, Paul Maurice is trying to kind of gauge what he's got. If any of you are Miami Heat fans, this is what Eric Spoelstra does. He kind of tinkers with things during the season, and then eventually you figure out, okay, this is what these guys can do, so I know how to plug them in certain situations come April. So welcome to depth, everybody. It's fun. It's nice being on the deep end for once.
Yeah, and you even spoke about guys who are sitting down where you're like, no, why? And and the Checkers are actually out west in San Jose currently, trying to refresh the feed. They are tied 1 after 20, so it gives you an idea of when we are recording this. As well, Lucas Carlson got the tying goal in the first period, so they're currently in the first intermission out in San Jose playing the Barracuda. But great feelings right now with the Florida Panthers, 8-4-1 and all, and a chance to end their first 3-game winning streak of the season. We had to wait until February last year to get
games
it.
in.
And they do it in game number 13. So lots to be thankful for sure. But Francisco, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this post-game edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, where the Florida Panthers come out with a 5-2 regulation win over the Eastern Conference, over their Eastern Conference matchup from last year in the Carolina Hurricanes. Tell everybody where they can follow you online.
Sure. It's at FLA Cats History, Panthers Historian. That's where you can find me there. I also have an Instagram account, which I think is just Panthers History, but I kind of sort of barely post on there. It's mainly on the Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. So that's where I'm at. I'm posting old stuff, old merchandise, old retro videos and everything like that. And of course, during game days, I try and post clips and everything during the games. And also Marlins history, Luis Arias won the Silver Slugger for second baseman, so hooray! And Skip Shoemaker, maybe by next week, will be the manager of the year. And if he doesn't win it, it's been rigged from the start. So, he deserves it. And yeah, you can catch me on FLA Cats History. I'll be doing Panther stuff, and I've got a YouTube channel as well where I am saving. I've compiled at Marlins History if you want to find it, but I've compiled a library of full Marlins games that I've been able to find on YouTube, and I've also got a Panthers playlist of full Florida Panthers games from many years on it. I've got a few 90s games as well. Got a lot of the 96 run is in there too. And so if people want to go down and walk down the memory lane, you can go visit my YouTube channel, Marlins History, as well.
Awesome. And Panther fans, make sure to follow all of his work, all that he just described there, as he is trying to bring the past to life in our current state, as far as what the Panthers were to now, and even with the Miami Marlins, formerly the Florida Marlins. So Francisco, thank you so much, my friend, and I will see you next time, my friend.
All right, thank you, Armando.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steele Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Francisco Oporta, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.